Well, greetings. Thank you all for joining us tonight for our meet and greet. We're so excited to have everyone. Tonight we have Roseann Fricks with us, which she'll be coming on shortly and sharing a presentation with us. For those of you that are joining for the first time, this is a 30-minute phone call. It is held via Zoom. You're welcome to join us through video or over the phone. And it is a quick introduction, a presentation, and then we have time for discussion and Q&A. So if you have questions throughout our presentation, please put them in the chat box or raise your hand after and we'll get to everyone's questions. So without any further delay, I'd like to go ahead and introduce Roseann, and then I will hand over our invisible mic to her. Roseann is the Chief Executive Officer of the Early Learning Coalition of Marin County, having a commitment to support the education and healthy development of children and families for over 19 years. She's a graduate of Nova Southeastern University, and she holds an MBA from Webster University. Her community involvement currently includes Healthy Start of North Central Florida, Habitat for Humanity, Ocala's Women's Network, and the Association of Early Learning Coalitions. Her involvement with the Kiwanis Club of Ocala includes chairing of the Children First Committee, Young Children Priority 1 and Youth Services, as well as District Chair for Young Children Priority 1 and a Director of the club. She has served as past Lieutenant Governor for Division 6 and past President. Recognition received by Roseann includes Outstanding Service in Early Learning in 2016. And here's a big one. She was inducted into the Florida Family Child Care Association Advocate Hall of Fame in 2018. So we are so excited to have Roseann Fricks with us tonight, our district chair for our Florida District of Kiwanis. Roseann?
Hey, Allison, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, this is Roseann. I'm just calling in. I'm still having problems and going in and out, so I figured I'd just do it this way. Do you have my presentation, Allison?
Yep, and it's on the screen so they can see us. If you want to walk us through and you just tell me verbally when it's time to switch, I'll switch to the next slide for you.
Thank you. And again, I apologize. There's a lot of information in my presentation, and because I know this is a short meeting, I'm going to condense what I share with you, but hope that you will be able to go back and read some of it. That certainly is relevant to you as we go through this. So the first slide should say, what is early learning? And this is stuff that I know all of us on the call and Zoom meeting tonight are well aware of. And the first thing, of course, it states is the tremendous amount of brain development that occurs in a child's first life. We do include up through the age of 8 when we use the term early learning, and that's also explained in there. Our next slide talks to us specifically about YCPO, Young Children Priority 1. And again, as you know, this is an ongoing community service program of Kiwanis International, started by our dearly beloved and recently lost Dr. Will Bleckman, very special man. And when he brought this to the attention of Kiwanis International, it has remained a very focal point throughout all of these years. And the YCPO program does focus on 4 areas: maternal and child health, child care and development, parent education and support, as well as safety and pediatric trauma. So when we refer to YCPO in a setting such as this for Kiwanis, it can be in any of those specific areas. Our next slide gives us some research that explains to us even more so why early learning is important. Over the past several years, early learning has gained more and more attention, not only in our state, but throughout the nation as well as the world. And there are some quotes and some statistics on this slide that may not be new to you, but there might be one or two that are new. And the one that I've put in bold font on there, an effective economic development strategy providing up to a $16 return for every dollar spent. And as we know, that's a pretty good return. So every time we spend $1 on a little one, we're getting a return that will go up to $16. The next slide continues with some of that information. And the bottom bullet on that slide gives you, again, hopefully some information that you're already familiar with, that children who are fortunate enough to be educated in those first 5 years, those developmental years of their life, well, their brain is growing so rapidly, are 50% less likely to need special ed, 70% less likely to be arrested for a violent crime, and 50% less likely to become teen parents. So that in and of itself is an excellent reason for us to continue to focus on YCPO through our clubs. The next slide talks about mission readiness. And I don't know, is anybody familiar with mission readiness? Maybe not.
I only am a little bit.
Nope.
Oh, good. Okay. Well, mission readiness is an excellent resource. There are members of this organization that live right here in Florida and throughout the state and make excellent speakers. And if you look at the bottom bullet on that slide, it tells you 75% of our 17 to 24-year-old youth do not qualify to serve under the American flag because of school failure, criminality, and or physical fitness. And that comes directly from the U.S. Army. And again, when you have an opportunity, type in mission readiness on your computers and you will see a wealth of information there. And what they have to share is just staggering. So they too have taken on YCPO, Young Children Priority 1, as a priority to educate. They speak in front of our legislators at the federal level as well as throughout the state, so that all of us can realize the extent and the importance of YCPO. So the next slide should give you a number on the left-hand side, 34,583. And this is the economic part of the presentation for you this evening. So that number, 34,583, are the number of businesses, child care, early learning centers in the state of Florida that are right here and working with our children. And when we think of child care, we may not realize the extent of the impact of this business community, because any industry that can say there's 35,000 of us throughout a state is certainly a large industry. And you can see on the right-hand side of the slide some statistics there for you. And the last one, the $9,018, is the average cost of child care for an infant in a family child care setting. There are the child care settings that we think of are family child care homes, where these businesses are in an individual's home, faith-based child care, as well as private centers throughout the state as well. So the number of customers they're serving there, it tells you there's approximately 28% or 321,397 in some type of child care arrangement throughout our state in Florida on a daily basis. Again, when you look at it from a business perspective, that's a pretty good sized number. And when you take that $9,000 number and divide it out by weeks, by months, and by hours, individuals throughout our state are spending approximately just under $4 an hour to educate and take care of our most precious resource, our children. I don't know of anybody who's willing to do that today, and yet our child care providers are expected to do that on a regular basis. Your next slide, I'm going to tell you some specifics about Marion County. And Marion County, for those of you who may not know, is here in Central Florida in Ocala. We're just south of Gainesville, Florida, which most people know from the University of Florida and the Gators. And we're just north of the Villages, the Lady Lake area, which is also very well known throughout the state. And you can see that in Marion County through the Early Learning Coalition, which is that ELC acronym there, we pay approximately $24 a day for 6 to 11 hours of childcare. So that kind of goes right in line with what I just shared with you on the previous slide. And you can see the other items that are paid there. There's 30 early learning coalitions throughout the state. We cover all 67 counties, and the early learning coalition started at the federal level with federal legislation and federal dollars to assist families pay for childcare so they can go to work. I know in the economy right now, and those of us that are employers and looking for people to come to work, it may be hard to believe, but that's the whole purpose of our early learning coalitions, is to assist people be able to become financially independent and financially stable by assisting with some of the costs that are required for child care. Your next slide just gives you a couple of pointers, again, specific to Marion County on the impact that COVID had. The child care providers had to remain open, because if we didn't have child care, our first responders, our EMTs, our doctors, our nurses, our police officers, sheriff's deputies would not have been able to do the many things that they did throughout that period of time. In spite of the fact that our child care community, those almost 35,000 businesses, are essential workers, we did have some close because of COVID, and unfortunately wind up closing because of the lack of funds to maintain their business. Your next slide should share with you some additional facts about childcare. When we think again of childcare as a business, the impact that it makes in our state is a significant one. And there's some additional bullet points there, but an average of $7,000 per child per year in a family child care business, then they have a gross income of $70,000 for serving 10 children. So the $70,000 may be a good number, but when you think of the operating costs that go along with a business, that's gross, not net, so it's going to be a lot less than that. The last one, the last bullet point on there, this study found that about 8.7% of our families with a child under 5 had someone quit a job, not take a job, or change jobs in the past 12 months because of problems with childcare. Again, very significant, and looking at it from a business standpoint, we can see the significance of keeping our child care providers in business. Our next slide there says, okay, so what do we do? How do we handle this? And it provides you with some information about the funding through the federal government, how we can work together to explore options to assist with the cost of benefits for child care, as well as there are conversations, and hopefully some of you were able to recently participate in Children's Week in Tallahassee and talk with some of our legislators about the fact that we need to make more funding available on a recurring basis for these business entities that are taking care of and developing and grooming our children so they can do things like go into the military service and not become teen parents, et cetera, those other things we talked about. Your next slide just gives you some pointers about what the Early Learning Coalition in Marion County, and this is just Marion County again, is and what we do. This is similar to all the other early learning coalitions throughout the state as well. So please reach out to your local early learning coalitions as well for details and information on the specific programs they have available. And the early learning coalitions are here to partner with awesome clubs, just like our Kiwanis clubs, so that together we can make a stronger impact for our children, to assist with these business communities and assist with ensuring that we have more children ready for kindergarten and less children getting into trouble. And then your last picture is just a reason of this is why we do this. And I know I apologize again, I'm talking to you over phone instead of the virtual. And I kind of ran through some of that, but I hope that it did provide you with a little bit of information, and my contact information is on that first slide as well. And I'm sure, Allison, feel free to post the presentation and share it with everyone. I'm certainly available for questions and answers, and even to come and make presentations as appropriate.
Well, thank you so much, Roseann, for joining us. We really do appreciate your time, and what a great presentation. We will share this on our social media outlets as well as YouTube. We have about 10 minutes now, so if you're open to it, Roseann, we'll open the floor
Sure.
for questions. And if not, we did receive 2 great questions that aligned with what you were presenting on that we can discuss too.
Sure, go for it.
Well, if anyone does have questions or wants to jump in, you're welcome to unmute and jump in, or you can start on our chat. You know, Roseann, you had mentioned the Heckman report on one of your slides, and this was a big talking point during our Jubilees webinar series, which we hosted last year for some of our board that are numbers people, because that's part of talking about early childhood and early childhood education. So can you talk a little bit, the 101 Reader's Digest of the Heckman, and why it's important for those number people talking about early childhood?
Well, and certainly I'll do my best. To sum it up, we know that very rarely do we have immediate gratification from anything. And when we talk about making an impact in someone's life, whether it's a child or even an adult, it doesn't happen overnight. So the Heckman report takes into account several years of watching children in various settings and various environments, economic backgrounds, et cetera, to determine what that difference is. And in the long run, what is that return on investment? And that's it in a nutshell. And it comes out to share with us that there is up to a 10% annual return on investment. So when I spend $1 on a 1-year-old, by the time that child gets up to an adult, there is going to be realized, whether it's through reduction in remedial education or not becoming a teen parent or staying out of trouble, that is going to realize that's significant on a return of that $1 we spent on that child. And again, it's not necessary that we would see that right away, but it will happen.
Well, thank you for sharing that with us. That is so important, that the long-term vision there for the investment. You know, you are the perfect person to answer this next question. And again, we got introduced to the idea of the childcare deserts and that topic during the midst of COVID, during our Jubilee series. And it doesn't kind of matter where you are in the state. I think that this is a conversation that's coming up in early childhood. I live right next to a naval base, and it's a very big conversation in our local community in Jacksonville. How are we doing as a state with these childcare deserts and all of the federal help that it seems that's available right now for those small businesses?
And definitely that is becoming a very hot topic, as you just said, because there are areas throughout the state that are childcare deserts, meaning they don't have access. And we couple that with the fact that, well, there may not be a childcare in the immediate area. There also is the inability of families that live there to have adequate transportation to get that child there, because we know the public schools have transportation, but it does not include the young children, the child care businesses and child care community. So it is something that has gotten a lot of attention. There's money being put into various studies, as well as think tanks and work groups and focus groups, to say, what can we do about this, because of the recognition that it is such a huge thing, that the sooner we can get our children in a proper age appropriate, developmentally environment, the better off for the child in the long run. So it is a hot topic, and one I know that as an individual as well as a Kiwani, I'm paying close attention to.
Yeah, it's so important. And just like you said, it's really a part of all of our conversations. So Roseann, what exciting projects are you seeing statewide with young children Priority 1? We've seen some really cool ones come to the foundation from our Will and Rachel Bleckman Fund grants, which we're so excited about, and we'll be approving hopefully some at our upcoming board meeting. But what are some that maybe that you're excited about that you can share with us and give other clubs maybe new ideas?
Oh, sure. One of them that we are absolutely thrilled with right here in Marion County is RIF. The Reading is Fundamental. We purchase books to give to children, because that has been proven over the years in research as well, that that's the number one way to enhance, motivate, encourage literacy skills in our children, is to give them a book. Unfortunately, 62% of our children throughout the state do not have one book that they own in their homes. So through RIF, we distribute books to children, whether it's in a child care setting or a public school setting, starting with our 4-year-olds in voluntary pre-kindergarten on up through 2nd, 3rd, 4th grade. They have the opportunity to walk through their media center and make their own selection of getting a book. And for those of you that have participated in the program, you know the look on some of those children's faces when they receive a book and realize they don't have to return it, they don't have to share it, it is theirs, is just absolutely wonderful, because we want to develop and strengthen that love of reading. So RIF is just one of them, and certainly any of the exciting projects that are going on that encourage physical activity is another way, whether it's assisting with a park and maintaining a park, adding appropriate playground equipment to a park. There are born learning trails that we install in parks to encourage interaction between adults and children. Anything like that is also super exciting as well.
Those are good ideas. Well, thank you for sharing. I'm sure that is so rewarding to see the kids' reactions to new books, and also reading with them, as well as the story trails. Well, is there any other excitement, Roseann, that maybe I missed or didn't ask going on with Young Children Priority 1 in the state? We're just so thrilled to have you tonight.
Well, thank you. I appreciate being here, even though it is just on the phone. And certainly in a short period of time, I think we've covered a lot and hopefully planted some seeds. But like I said, I can't think of anything off the top of my head. There are a lot of exciting projects throughout the community. And I know the other calls that I've been able to participate in, it's wonderful to see the action and motivation and the commitment of our Kiwanis clubs throughout the state to make a difference in the lives of our children. So I thank everyone for doing that.
Well, absolutely. That's so true. We wouldn't be where we are without all of the great volunteers that we have statewide through Kiwanis. So we are grateful for them. Mr. President, would you like to add anything at this point?
I'd just like to say thank you for your presentation this evening. It was very good. And you made me spark some, created some sparks in my mind of what my local club or my clubs here in Division 12 can do. I know one of the clubs they have in Safety Harbor. You were talking about books. They have a Halloween on the streets of downtown Safety Harbor. The Safety Harbor Kiwanis Club gives away books. Every child who comes through by their table can pick out a book of their own and take it home with them. I think that's key. So that's great. Very great.
Yeah, that's wonderful, and certainly a whole lot better for them than candy. Even
exactly.
They might enjoy the candy more. That book will last a lot longer. That's a wonderful project.